PMW-F55 is one of two new Cine Alta 4K cameras we recently introduced. This camera has some really breakthrough technology. The imager on this camera is a what is euphemistically called a global shutter. We call it a frame scan sensor, and it is exposing all the pictures simultaneously. So if you were to fire a strobe, let's say you have a dark scene and you have a police car in the scene and the lights are flashing, on a camera with a global shutter you'll see these streaks, these bands carried randomly on the frame. With a frame scan, all of the pixels are exposed simultaneously as film is. So the whole frame will become lighter, the black level will come up, and it looks very natural. In addition to that, I don't know if you noticed sometimes on TV where they're shooting outside a helicopter, you see the blades bending, so-called jello cam. Global shutter, or the frame scan system that we have, eliminates that, so it looks very natural. The sensor has very high sensitivity. Has a native ISO sensitivity of 1250, and it has a 14 stops latitude. So the camera can capture tremendous range, a lot more range that you can actually display in existing monitors. But it's possible then in post-production you can bring everything down into range and have a very, very natural reproduction. The camera has 4 codecs. It can internally record to 50 megabit 422, and it can also record to MPEG-4 intraframe. It records to MPEG-4 codec. It's the highest level in profile that MPEG-4 has, and we call this XAVC. And it can, the codec is very powerful. In the case of MPEG-4, you can use the tools in many different ways, so it's just a tool package. And what we do is we are able to optimize frame by frame. So the images, if you're panning or if the subject is moving, the codec is optimizing, and we're storing the encoding parameters onto the frame data. So if you were going to do multi-generation editing, it gets re-encoded with the same parameters and have very high quality. Plus, we do dual pass encoding on a single pass, so it's actually 2 encoders. It is actually pre-encoding and looking at the bit budget and optimizing and then compressing. So it produces very high quality. The codec can run internally the XAVC at 4K up to 60 frames per second, and at 2K up to 180 frames per second. So this camera can also record 16-bit linear raw, and with a 14 stop. So with 16-bit, we have over 65,500 gradations. So it is possible to capture very, very fine nuances, image texture, and nuances in the gradations of the color or the illuminance. The OLED has nearly 14 stops of latitude, so it has 13.28 is the calculation. So you can nearly see all the highlights that the camera can capture. The camera can capture more, a little bit more. But with typical LCD finders, you could see very few stops.
We have a lot of Canon lenses. We have a lot of our renters have Canon lenses. Is there an active Canon solution?
There are several from third parties. And currently we're showing in the accessory area, we're showing Optitec system. And Optitec is an incredibly powerful system. It has a controller very similar to a C-Motion, which allows you to control the focus and the aperture. And it's been bulletproof. And it's available for sale, so they're selling them already. We are adding a capability to trigger the camera. This will be available end of this month. And be able to start-stop the camera with a contact closure. So that we've had a lot of requests from people who want to start-stop the camera. So 2 of the unassigned pins on the Hiroshi DC out. One of them will be what we call a GPI, general purpose interface, which is just a contact closure. So it closes the first time, you close the switch, it will start recording, you trigger again, it stops. It just toggles. And then the second pin is a tally. So you can have an LED light or something to give you an indication that the camera is rolling. S-log is a curve that allows us to fit all those 14 stops into that 10-bit of the recording format. And in the case of the previous camera, let's say the F3, the sensor can only I say can only 1,000% exposure latitude or dynamic range, and this sensor on this camera can go 1,500%, which is a tremendous leap. So it's pretty much the same as an F55, dynamic range-wise. And so we had to implement the S-log2 curve that was made for the F65 in order to capture the highlight gradations.